could certainly look into that. I think it get you an answer. So here's where, again, here's where our water infrastructure gets a little on the tricky side. Because it's lease managed, the town of Boston essentially takes direction and receives information from Erie County Water Authority, but we don't have, the inner workings, maps, et cetera, of all this infrastructure. I wish I had that answer for you. I don't have, but I could look into it. I know another complaint that popped up. I try to stay off of social media. It's not my thing. But social media, that's my finger on the pulse of what's going on in the community. Another complaint that came up was a lot of aeration in the water. And, could that hypothetically be from a possible air leak, a possible crack, sucking in air, possibly. There's a lot of variables. A couple residents that did reach out and contacted Erie County Water Authority for them. They were fantastic to work with. They were out within less than 24 hours. They did testing of the water quality and everything came back okay. Thank God. I don't know about that. That's a great question. I don't know, but I'll try to get an answer from the engineering team over there. Big projects, big repairs needed. Here again, here's pretty much the remainder of our punch list. There's some other things on here, but I didn't want to take up too much of your time tonight. We tried to be respectful of that. Drainage improvement area. This is something that I talked about as I was running as supervisor, drainage improvement area. This is townwide. This is an engineering study. This is actually a proof of concept over in Victor, Pello and Associates. They were retained by the town to look into this for us. But it is no secret that we're obviously 2 hills, a valley, we have water problems. And this has been going on for many years, many administrations, and the drainage improvement area could potentially fix this. And essentially, there's a lot of stakeholders at the table. This would be the state, this would be the county, this would be the town, because once we go for this from what's behind me, all the land that's behind me, we have to get that water across Boston State Road. So while we can say it's easy to drop in a 24-inch culvert somewhere, we have to get permission to run that across the road because 18 Mile Creek, that's our outlet. There's other ways you can create retention ponds. It's almost the sky's the limit when you're dealing with runoff, but you also have to make sure that you're also complying with DEC regulations, that you can't change the natural flow of water. There's a lot of logistics that go into this, but it is something that we're looking into, we're working on, and truth be told, it will take some time just to even get a plan. Part of the reason of doing this also is that to secure grant funding now, the state, it is what it is, but the state is looking for a plan. No different than town's master plan, comprehensive plan. They want something in black and white that shows good faith on a municipality. We've paid engineering costs, we've paid that our dues, I guess I'll call it, that we have a plan in place, and now we can seek the grant funding. And if we don't have that, chances are we're going to miss the grant opportunity, because the first thing that the grant's going to do is say we want some kind of engineering study done. So that is something that we'll be working on, and it's going to come at a cost. Town hall boiler, I won't touch base more on that. If anybody has any questions, you can certainly talk to me about it. Be happy to discuss the boiler. Elevator, touch base on that one a little bit earlier on. I won't take any more time there unless anybody has any additional questions. North Boston Park building, also touch base on that one earlier. I would love to see that fixed. I'd like to try to get that park in better shape than it's at. It's just going to be a matter of securing some grant funding to get that revitalized. I was really hoping with the CDBG grant that would have taken care of it. I actually sit on the project selection committee, and I represent small towns. And what they do is they shift people. People from the north, from the south go up north, people from the north come down south, and we look at all of these different municipalities. We rate them, we grade them, and that's how you essentially secure the funding. So it's not to say that this won't happen again, but something that we might have to put back on the docket to try to secure some funding. Some of the big expenses: highway roof, 7-foot snowstorm. If you recall, the town board did some repairs to the highway roof. There's some additional leaking and some other things going on there, so that's going to be another project that needs to be bid out and looked into. Southbound barn roof. We did a temporary repair, replace some shingles. The shingles they're truly at the end of their life cycle. That's going to be another expense coming into the town. And then multiple highway vehicles reaching the end of the life cycle. One of the reasons we got the new truck, but we have a lot of vehicles down there that the OSE, Office of the State Comptroller guidelines, life cycle on those vehicles are approximately 10 years. And there's the opinion that if the repairs and maintenance exceed the total purchase price, it's time out service, because at the end of the day it becomes basically nothing more than a debt load to the taxpayer. It essentially becomes like a vehicle that you where I might hold on to and say, okay, you know, I can't really afford a new vehicle yet, but when you look at what it's doing, it's nickeling and diming you, and you're better off just getting a new vehicle. A lot of different options out there. I'm not saying that we have all the answers just yet, but some of the options are, we can certainly lease the trucks and swap out bodies. There's what's called a state bid list to try to keep the costs down to the taxpayers. We work with other counties. It's called piggybacking. I think about this. There's another little trick that I learned in one of my classes, and it's completely legal. We can actually go out and watch state bid list or the auctions, pick up a vehicle, use it for at least 2 years, preferably 2 to 3, and then turn around and flip that vehicle. We're basically becoming, I hate to say we become a used car dealer, but we do. See legislator does not do that here. But it does, it works, and I couldn't agree more. So you purchase these vehicles with the intent that you're only keeping them for a couple of years. So you flip them, if you profit from it, that money, like I was telling you before about that credit card trick, that you know, that dividend back on the cash, that goes right back into unanticipated revenue. So now we can actually profit off of the vehicles, and we're just cycling out our vehicles. Long-term ownership is not all that it's cracked up to be, especially when, as you saw just a little while ago, the new truck's $250,000. And if you look at fire departments, what their trucks are costing, we got to think smart, but we got to think outside the box. We can't just stay with the old mindset. It's always been done this way. But so that is something that we're certainly, it's on the radar, we're looking into. And I know outside of that, the only another option, again, not saying this is the way we're going, but shared service. You can partner with other municipalities, do shared service, utilize their equipment instead of buying a piece of equipment. Two municipalities or multiple municipalities could go in and purchase a piece of equipment and then you essentially share it. And actually, yes, yeah.
We have a couple of those.
We have 2 street sweepers that we share with other towns, correct? 5 other towns.
Yeah, so it's out there. Shared service actually happens in the civilian world. I think I just saw it popped up. Completely different side note, just made me think about it though. Is on Facebook actually you can do shared co-owning boats. Actually, I don't know. Multiple people can go basically pay for a boat. You just figure out which weekend you want to use it. Think of it almost like timeshare. So anyway, this is our punch list. This is what we'll be building into the budget that you'll all start hearing about going into next year. Again, 2% tax cap is here to stay. The governor built that into his budget. I don't disagree, and I will, again, as a chief financial officer of the town and your supervisor, and I thank all of you for your support, but 2% tax cap, I'm not against. What I do not like is the fact that capital improvement projects were not excluded from that. In the schools, they are. So if the school wants to do a capital improvement project, that is not holding that 2% tax cap. You've already seen what you're paying in school taxes. It's much more than what you're paying for your town. If you look at the 2% tax cap and you take any one of these large ticket items, I'm going to tell you right now, we'll sail over that 2% tax cap all day long, especially when you're looking at water infrastructure. It's the facts, it's numbers, it's not political, it's a fact. So again, this is why we need to be smart. We need to create long-term plans, capital improvement plans, 5-year plans, 10-year plans, 15-year plans. Okay, again, I'm not talking about, and I don't know, it's up to you, but depending on how long the people allow me to stay in office, this is going to be something that's going to go on other administration shoulders. It is that you can't run away from this. This is something that needs to be focused on and something that needs to be addressed. So that's my 2 cents on the tax cap, and also with the capital. Cable TV, another big topic in our community. Spectrum, just so everybody knows, yes, we've been working with Spectrum to try to work on some of the outage issues. The town hall's been flagged with them for the past almost, I'd say, 14 months. They finally fixed a node. Hopefully that's the issue. But there's a node out at the pole that basically fixes the problems that we're having in Leewood or in other areas. Build-out plans is always the hot one. When am I going to get Spectrum internet at my house? Spectrum does have a website. I put it out. I put the link out on the municipal website and also out on the town's Facebook page. They will not. I should say they will not. Spectrum will share their build-out plans. However, what they want me as the chief financial officer to do is sign a non-disclosure agreement, which legally I cannot do. I'm subject. All of us elected officials, we're subject to open meetings law. We need to be transparent. That's our duty. That's our right. And when they told me that they would provide me a list of all the build-out last year, please just sign off on a non-disclosure agreement. I said, I can't legally do that. So that's why the website exists. Sadly, there were a bunch of people on FedEx. Some people, there's a bunch of different locations, but there are people that were initially officially listed there, that they're going to have the internet and phone and TV within 12 months, and then all of a sudden it fell off the radar. Please check back again soon. There's a lot going on with Spectrum. I will not beat a dead horse over with that one, but all I can really tell you, unfortunately, I wish I could give you a better answer. Follow that website, because none of us elected officials will get that information. It's its own little animal, but it is what it is. And, you know, service level and quality, I just touch base on, and I hear complaints from the residents, you know, the rates are going up, but I keep getting dropped calls, my internet's horrible, it's slow as dial-up, I hear you loud and clear, I do. Actually, I sat last year with Michael Riley, who's the FCC chairman, actually went out to Batavia when Governor Cuomo had positioned that all rural communities and areas were going to receive broadband internet. Essentially, that solution was HughesNet satellite. So it was not Spectrum being partners to do a build out. To give you an idea, this just happened, and actually Bob was there to witness it. We both kind of looked at each other like, are you kidding me? To give you an idea, the telephone pole down by Gene, the next residential house down here, Gene Wachowski, his house, to run a line from the pole at the end of his property where the old trooper barracks is to in front of the trooper barracks, it was $5,400. I think it was more. Was it over $5,000 to run a length of cable that was less than 120 feet. And this is what residents are being quoted also. So I mean, there's a resident I'm working with about FedEx to run a quarter-mile line. She was a little over $9,000. That's before it even gets to that's just to string it, and she's at the termination point. That's just to string it before it even gets to her house, and then she still has to pay the installer to run it to her house. So these costs are just going through the roof. You know, obviously, municipality will help where we certainly can. That's our job. It's taking all of office to do. But that's the story on Spectrum. Verizon, to touch base on, to clear the air on Verizon. Build out, none. I wish there was a different answer there. Verizon, the last conversation I had with their government relation representative, they're strictly focusing on 5G. 5G is the next big thing. I know there's health issues and other issues that come along with 5G, such as the infrastructure that gets attached to the poles, what it looks like. That's where the town needs to be starting to actually ramping up our town code and what we want these things to look like before it's too late. To build out, they do not intend on adding any more fiber to the poles or underground at all. So unfortunately, for those of us that have Verizon Fios, great, enjoy it while you can. Those that don't, unfortunately, Verizon has no build out plan. So unless they change their tune, right now their shareholders are putting a lot of money into 5G. And the reason being is we all have one of these. We all have a tablet. We're all connected to the internet. We want to be connected.
That's what I do for my computer at home for work. I just use my phone as a percent hotspot. It's way cheaper.
There it is. And Verizon hears that loud and clear, and they know that they're going to rake
So why
in.
get it put in when you can just use your cell phone?
So that's the reality there. You know, service level and quality. I've never. Even as a councilman, I was a cable TV liaison. I have to tell you, I've never had one complaint about Verizon. They've always been relatively reliable. That's one thing that even Consumer Reports says they do a fantastic job on the Spectrum. That's a ball of wax. I have my own hypothetical theory, but just something that since the assessor was here, actually Sue and I had, we've had some conversations about this. Actually, Mike Reisman from over at Hodgson Russ and him and I've met, we've known each other for a few years from different conferences. But this fiber rule is taxable. I put the link here. If you want me to send it to you, please just drop me an email or call my office. I'd be happy to send it to you. It's a little bit of a lengthy read, but it's interesting. Mike Reisman actually had one of the largest cases in New York State. And essentially what it is that the New York State Court of Appeals declared telecommunications infrastructure and fiber optic cables as taxable real property. And that actually was backdated. So we're talking about millions, potentially millions of dollars of back taxes, if not billions. You know, the numbers aren't even out there yet. I mean, the numbers I'm tossing out to you right now are just coming from Jason Keating, and not coming from any statistical data. If that holds water, you know, there would be an influx of money to the municipality. That's a real deal. My theory is the reason why they don't want to do build out, everything I just told you up here. If they start building out, they start laying additional fiber. My theory is they're paying tax on it. They don't want to pay tax on it. They do over the air. They do over the air with the microcells with the 5G. They're not paying tax on it. They're paying the attachment charges to the pole to the utility company. That's it. They walk my theory. But anyway, just something I wanted to bring up, because that is something that, we keep myself and the town board and bookkeeper and I will keep our ears to the tracks on that one, see how that shakes out. Last but not least, a little shout out to our community. Become a volunteer, make a difference. Our planning board, conservation advisory council, zoning board of appeals, Meals on Wheels, Rural Transit, all great organizations. We look to the residents to help out. We're always looking for people to fill the planning board or be alternates. Conservation advisory council, way before I decided to throw my hand in world politics, I used to sit on the conservation advisory council. I was the chairman for a little while. Great organization. We put on the town's fishing derby. We had the Adopt a Highway program where we would clean up the 219 expressway, zoning board of appeals, and they handle some of the other variance requests and things there. Meals on Wheels, this is actually a pretty big deal. Meals on Wheels, I've been very fortunate to actually go out with Meals on Wheels and deliver to some of our residents. They've invited me the past 2 years. It's a great organization to provide food to the people that cannot get out of their homes and get a hot meal. And I gotta tell you, some of these people are just really wonderful people. It's unfortunate that they can't get out of their homes. That we feel really bad. But Rural Transit, you see the Rural Transit van out there. One of the things that Brenda, who's the director over there, actually one of the past senior liaison to senior groups, they wanted a van for the community. And doing a cost analysis, it just was not economically feasible. It didn't make sense. We looked at the scheduling, logistics, the salary, having another vehicle here, insurance, everything else. Rural Transit was gracious enough to add in another day for the town of Boston, so now they service the town of Boston three days a week versus 2. And they're actually looking to add in on Rural Transit. Truthfully, if they did not have volunteers, and some of which actually come right from our own community, they couldn't, we wouldn't have that service. So a huge shout out to those volunteers, because they do spend quite a bit of time driving our citizens around and taking the doctor's appointments or to the drugstore to pick up their medication.